Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, this is Will the Dragon Whisperer, back with another video of the channel. I've got my little girl Storm here, one of my albino ball pythons that I produced this season. She's a female and I'm going to be holding her back. She's incredible and I've named her Storm from the X-Men, and I'm happy to show her off to you guys. In this video we're going to be talking about bearded dragon setups. I've had quite a few subscribers request that I do a bearded dragon setup video. I do have a complete bearded dragon guide setup care guide video on my channel, and I do think it is one of the most concise, kind of shortest, but includes everything bearded dragon video there is on YouTube. There's a lot of reptile YouTubers that have a lot more knowledge and they have some really great care videos, but there's a kind of more quick and simple, and in mine I kind of show a lot of things that those guys don't cover, that a lot of the videos don't talk about. So, but in this video we're just going to concentrate on setups, but I did want to encourage you guys in this video to please support USARK. USARK is it is invaluable to us as a reptile keeper. They pay attention to the legislation in every state concerning our rights as reptile keepers to keep and house and care for these animals. And a lot of the politicians in a lot of these states, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, are coming after our rights and our freedoms to care for and house these animals. So please, you guys, reach out to USARK, go to their website, find out how to become a member, make a donation. They'll send you a really cool t-shirt, and please, you guys, they are the organization that is monitoring all this stuff and working hard every day to keep these animals in our homes and in our lives. So, and also Intrepid Exotics, go check out his channel, and he has I believe it's the North Carolina Herpetological Society that is formed here in our area. He talks a lot about it on his channel and on his Facebook, so go check Tim and Intrepid Exotics out, get the information if you want to belong to this organization that has been formed here in our local area. And please, you guys, check out Brass Man Reptiles on Instagram. Jeremy Turchin, he used to work at Nerd. He's a very talented musician. Jeremy is such a great guy. Every time I've ever approached him or seen him at a Repticon, he's moved in the area, and I see him frequently at Repticons and at the shows. And on Instagram, he always responds. He is so personable. He's easy to approach. So please, you guys, pay attention to his Instagram channel, because he live streams all the time and he is really on top of a lot of this legislation. The guy is such an ambassador for this hobby, and so you guys follow him on Instagram, and you can stay up to date on a lot of these things if you just follow Jeremy. But also make sure you go to the USARK website and support USARK. So we're going to jump straight into the video. Sorry that was a little long-winded, you guys, but that's a very important thing that you guys need to all jump into. So we're going to hit the road.
We're going, we don't need road.
All right, you guys, I have a lot of bearded dragons, so I'm going to show you guys multiple enclosure setups and ideas and different things you can do to set up your bearded dragon enclosure. Now, for adult bearded dragons, this is Apollo. He is an adult male. And for an adult bearded dragon, you definitely want a 4-foot by 2-foot enclosure. You can go with 12 or 18 or 2 foot for the height, because the height really is not going to matter for a bearded dragon. They will climb, but it is not necessary. But people may argue that they are semi-arboreal. I mean, it's better if you give them the 2 feet, but at least the 4-foot by 2 foot, at least that much ground space for an adult bearded dragon. And then, like in Apollo's tank, you want a heat source. He has a basking bulb and a ceramic fixture, because they don't get hot. They're not going to burn or melt as easily. And then his basking spot is let me turn the light on the gun here. His basking spot is 107, and then you want a cool spot in your tank between 75 and 85, and as you guys can see right there, dead on 80. And those parameters, you want your enclosure to be able to maintain those parameters. And you want UVB. UVB is absolutely necessary for bearded dragons. He has an 18-inch UVB bulb there. You ideally want something that's going to put UVB light all over the tank, but the strip bulb is a lot better than the screw-in or the coil bulbs, unless you have multiple ones in the tank. But UVB and a heat source and plenty of space, and then you want some kind of a flat spot for your basking area. I mean, that can be on the ground or elevated, and then you just want to give them lots of enrichment items. He has a hide on the cool side. He has a hide on the warm side. And like I said, lots of enrichment items, and that's basically all you need for your bearded dragon setup. And Apollo, this is a custom built tank. He has a drop down screen door, and the screen is small enough that invertebrates can't get out, so I can still put invertebrates loose in his tank and he can hunt them. But that is one of the ways you can set up your bearded dragon tank. Okay, you guys, this is another one of my bearded dragon setups, and this is for Ramses. He is my big blue bar citrus breeder, and he is the father of my baby bearded dragons. And as you can see, those blue bars, they're almost purplish blue. They're amazing. He is such a stud. But this is his setup, and alternatively to Apollo, he has a ceramic heat emitter instead of the basking bulb. This is another option for a heat source for your dragon. That's his basking area. It has a nice flat piece of slate there. And if you're concerned about your dragon climbing, if you have some kind of a high basking area, then you can obviously get a protective caging for your heat source. There's never been any risk of Ramses climbing up there and touching it. He's been in this tank for years, so it's never been an issue. And then he has the enrichment items just like Apollo. His little hide, he stays over there. He's never really cared to have a warm hide. I've had him for years. But that's something you can obviously provide if you want to in your enclosure. He spends his nights in that cave, and alternatively as well to Apollo, he has the coil bulbs instead of the strip bulb, and I custom built this tank so he has two of those, so that way that light is distributed throughout the whole tank. If it just had the one bulb when he's over here basking, where he spends the majority of his time, he would not be getting much of that UVB ray at all. So, and you guys, you cannot put your tank by the window and get UVB rays through the windows. Since like 1950s or 60s, windows in all homes block UVB rays. You cannot put your bearded dragon tank by the window for it to get UVB unless that window is open. So multiple sources, or at least a good source of UVB, and the heat source in this enclosure as well. And I didn't talk about this in Apollo's tank, but I do have loose substrate in almost all my bearded dragon tanks, especially the adults. This is just 100% play sand. I also use play sand and eco earth mixed, but 100% play sand works just as well, in my opinion. I've used it for years. I've never once had an impaction issue. Trust me, my bearded dragons poop just fine. I clean it up almost every day. But that is another way you can set up your enclosure with the ceramic heat bulb, the multiple UVB bulbs, and lots of enrichment and a nice basking area. And Ramses has the drop down door just like Apollo. It lets me drop the door down and let Ramses be able to come out and explore the reptile room and roam around. Okay, you guys, this is another one of my bearded dragon setups, and this actually houses two of my miracle dragons. This is Bella, and this little crazy girl running around over here is Rogue. And these two dragons, I know people may have issues with me cohabiting these dragons, but they are sisters. They were born together. They've lived together their whole life. They are about 5 months old now, and there's never been any issues. People that watch the channel know I live in my reptile room, so I monitor these girls constantly. They're provided salad all the time, but they are fed protein separately or either tongue fed separately, so there's never been any issues with them going after food or being food aggressive with each other. But this is another setup. They have the heat bulb. Instead of a basking bulb, it's a daytime heat bulb, so that's another heating option. And these girls have ventilation that I built into their tank, and they also have a fan to make sure that they have plenty of low humidity and they don't get a humidity buildup in their tank, and they have plenty of fresh air in there. These these PVC tanks, they do hold air a little more than the glass with the screen top. So I wanted to make sure they had plenty of air in there, so they do have a little fan I installed. And they also have the strip UVB light. They have the 18-inch UVB light strip in there. And another thing, guys, always mark your UVB bulbs for the date. They only last about 6 to 9 months, so you want to make sure you note the date that you buy those bulbs, because they're still going to be emitting visible light, but they're not going to be emitting the UVB rays you need after about the 6 to 9 month period. So make sure you date your UVB bulbs. But they also have a loose substrate, but it is very, very small, just a little bit, just to kind of get them used to it. It's not deep at all. And like I said, I've been doing this for years, guys, and I've never had any issues. They have warm hides. They have cool hides. And for the babies, I do provide them a water bowl. But if you're going to put a water bowl in your bearded dragon enclosure, you want to make sure it is on the cool side. You don't want it on the hot side, or it's going to cause humidity issues for sure. They always have their fresh salad. Rogue's going to walk up and check me out. She hears Daddy talking. And she's going to come up and eat some salad on camera. How cute is that? Oh, did you hear me talking about you? And now you're like, nope, daddy. Nope, not going to be quite that cool. Yeah, get you some, girl. Get you some of that nice salad. Actually, I put it out early this morning, and it's later in the evening, so it's dried out a little, but I'm sure she'll enjoy it here directly. Oh, she just didn't want to do it when I had the camera in her face. Oh, faked me out again. Anyway, that is another couple of different ways you can set up your bearded dragon enclosure, and just give them plenty of enrichment. And like I said, people are going to say stuff about putting small bearded dragons in big enclosures. Guys, I've never subscribed to that adage about a small animal in a large enclosure. As long as you can monitor the animal and monitor its health, as long as the enclosure is not so big that animal's going to get lost in there for days, you're not going to be able to see it or monitor it or check its health if you need to, then that's obviously too big. But somebody's saying that little bearded dragon shouldn't be in a big 4x2x2 enclosure. Guys, when they're born, they have the whole desert of Australia as their enclosure. So saying putting a small dragon in a big enclosure is not good or not healthy or could stress them out. They have the whole wild of Australia when they're born in the wild. And I notice, and I've always said this, the bigger space you give them, as long as it's not an unhealthily large space, if that's even a word, they're going to utilize it and they're going to explore. These guys run around this tank and explore it all day long. So even if you have a small hatchling dragon, as long as you can monitor it and maintain its health, then going ahead and putting it into a large 4x2 or 4x2x18 enclosure is not going to affect that dragon's health in any way. Now, this is another one of my bearded dragon enclosures, another way you can set it up. Now, this would only work for a hatchling. This is much too small for an adult. This is about a 25-gallon. This would probably work for maybe their first 6 to 9 months. Then you're definitely going to have to upgrade. This would be way too small for a dragon any bigger than that. And like I said, he has multiple UVB bulbs. Since I have the coil bulbs in this tank, he has 2 bulbs, as well as the basking bulb. And in this tank, as you'll notice, the other tanks have a flat basking area. He has an elevated basking area here, and you'll see the temperature up there is about 103, 105, 107, 104 right there. And it allows you to use a little bit lower wattage. Sometimes they're less expensive, the lower wattage. So that allows you to use a lower wattage bulb and still achieve your basking temperature. You still want a relatively flat spot so that temperature gradient is pretty solid right through at least that one area where they're going to be laying. If you have too much of a slope, then that temperature gradient is going to be too strong along that slope. It's going to vary too much to provide a constant basking temperature. So if you are going to have an elevated basking surface, you really want it to be as flat as possible or a really slight angle. And this is D'Artagnan. He's one of my miracle dragons, but this guy has quite the attitude. And trust me, he's in deep shed because he's a bright red, but he's all grayed out right now because he's in shed. But that's not the reason. This guy's had an attitude from out of the egg. He's actually bitten me quite a few times, and one of the few animals that's drawn blood from daddy. But we're going to be working on that. Actually got a video in the works on taming this little tough guy down. But this is D'Artagnan, and he has the elevated basking spot, the lower wattage basking bulb, and just like I stated earlier, he has coil bulbs, but he has multiple bulbs, so that lights throughout the whole tank. And he has this cool hide. He has a place to hide on the warm side, a little salad bowl in there he's already been into. And actually in this enclosure, it used to be for crested geckos, so it has a substrate glued to the background, and this actually works out great for younger bearded dragons because they love to climb on the substrate, and invertebrates will climb on there and give them another kind of area and enrichment way to hunt. If you want to put loose invertebrates in there, which you always want to take back out. If they don't eat them, do not leave them in their tank overnight. They could potentially eat on your animal, especially crickets. So if you do feed loose invertebrates to let them hunt, make sure you get those back out of there. But this is another way you can set up your bearded dragon tank. But when you go this small, 25 gallons, you're going to have a hard time having a hot spot that's that hot and then still maintaining a cool spot in the 70s to 80s. Any smaller than that, and your hot spot is going to overwhelm the cool area of your tank, and that's not going to work for you. But for a hatchling, this is another setup idea and a lighting, heating setup that you could use to set up your bearded dragon.
Alright, you guys, once again, this is Will the Dragon Whisperer. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned a little bit about bearded dragon setups and got some ideas of how you can improve or change your setups. Or if you're thinking about getting a bearded dragon, hopefully this will help you get your setup all dialed in before you bring your new little baby home. So smash that like button, you guys. Ring that notification bell. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. I'm out.